I think Charles Dance asked me what I was rambling about. And I feel like I'm rambling. I'm going to ramble. I'm going to make a bunch of videos in this series. Problems in the world. So one of the problems in the world is that people are stupid, right? And another problem is that people think people are stupid. And it's a problem that people treat other people like they're stupid. And it's a problem that people fall for that and act stupid when they're treated stupid. This is a big problem. And I feel, unfortunately, we teach our kids that people are stupid. It's related, it's analogous at least to this idea that, the world is fucked up, it's going to hell in a handbasket. Everybody believes it, but we all think it's for different reasons, and we mean different things when we say it. Sort of the same thing. Everybody else is stupid. This tentacle thinks that tentacle is stupid, and this tentacle thinks that tentacle is stupid, and then that tentacle is pointing over at this tentacle, and all the tentacles are... Sure, some other tentacles are stupid. And I kind of believe that, in my teen years coming in and just looking at the world, because I was very aware of, the Native American genocide and the history of war, and there was even more history I learned later that they don't tell you, and labor struggles, all kinds of things. So it's easy to believe, people are stupid. When I look at people real close, and they seem kind of smart. I see all these smart things they've done. Plus, they're always a step ahead of you as you develop. You try to figure out all these systems and things that are going on, and you do. But part of what I think you figure out is, wow, the system's a step ahead of me. I knew where I was going, kind of thing. Though some of that is from what I call the uncle principle, based on the old saying that, the old truism, that age and treachery beat youth and enthusiasm every time. So maybe they're not smarter, maybe they just got there. But then again, they know how to use the fact that they were there first to their advantage, and there's some intelligence in that. And I just think people are pretty smart. Even a group of idiots, combined together, 10 idiots, definitely has more mental capacity than me. Why would I outsmart 10 idiots? Well, it's because they wouldn't be using that mental capacity together. And this gets to what I think people, are having trouble with. You can't say people aren't good at thinking. Once they get a way of thinking, they apply it pretty well. They're not good about thinking about thinking. They're not good about, like they'll get a dogma and they'll apply it really well. Maybe better than it inherently should be possible to apply it. It could be a wrong thing, like the Ptolemy's celestial mechanics. They apply it really well and actually get stuff out of it. But they're not so good at thinking, well, wait, how am I thinking about this? Let me think about how I'm thinking. That they suck at. And that's the purpose of this channel. And this is why I don't tell you a lot of like what to think. I just help you have a place to practice thinking about thinking. It doesn't really matter. This is a distinction. People are like, I see the human race kind of as like idiot savants. They're like retarded people but they could tell you the square root of 5,742, off the top of their head, but they can't tie their shoelaces. And I think this is the gist. We're really good. We have really good brains for thinking things that get into the brain, but we're not so good at putting one thing in the brain versus another and judging like that. So it allows us to be really stupid. And we look around and see better ways of thinking all the time, and people are using some moronic, retarded kind of way of thinking. On purpose, it seems like. And what it is I don't think that they're very good at thinking about thinking, and that's what we need. We need practice at that. And people are not very good at making the distinction between how a person is thinking and what they think. In fact, you can ask, how do you think about this subject? And it can mean, what do you think? Now, really, it should be separate, like logic versus principles. How you think is the logic. What you come up, what you think, depends on the logic and what you put into the logic. Okay? So that's the distinction. Most people watching me right now, even that agree with me, in some sense that they won't get. This difference between how someone thinks versus what they happen to think. What makes someone stupid? Someone's not stupid for thinking that the sun goes around the earth, unless they have information that they should be able to process. Unless they can't figure out how they need to think about this kind of stuff. Not believing in evolution 2,000 years ago, that's different from not believing in evolution now. And the reason is because of how you have to protect that belief, how your meta thinking is working, how you're keeping in this non-scientific truth for yourself. That's where you're making a mistake. That's where you're being stupid. It's not so stupid to take that like a religious way of thinking and say, oh, the world's got to be 4,000 years old. My religious way of thinking says that. That's actually what that thinking should be concluding. That's how that thinking works. The problem is, why can't people ever swap out? They don't swap out. They don't take other ideas on. You need some practices. You need some mental practices. You need to know how to work out side of your own limited assumption. If you have one way you feel or one thing you want, you need to recognize, wait a second, that situation itself is reason to want another way of feeling, of another way of thinking, so I can compare. And this is why I push relativism in terms of what to think. I do push relativism because relativism helps us to make to realize that all we can do for getting knowledge is to make comparisons. So we always need options. And people are bad at options. They're bad at optional ways of thinking. If their way of thinking arrays some options, man, they could process options and prioritize heuristically and all kinds of amazing things with this brain. But they just don't list ways of thinking as options. They don't have this extra level of abstraction. That's what we're developing now. And we all have the seed of it, and many of us have carried it to respectably advanced levels, but it's something that in our culture seems dormant and needs to be woken. And this is this ability to compare different ways of thinking and choose the best way of thinking based on criteria, cognitive criteria that you use to judge a good idea versus a bad idea. Right, so right now we're limited in that good ideas are just ideas that are like mine. And that's not the kind of criteria we need for good idea. A good idea needs to be a criteria. We don't compare it to what we already know. We compare it to something else, which would be reality, which is actually to our shared collective perceptions.